And now let's get ready for some sprinkle, ladies and gentlemen. Last but not least, all you architecture geeks, he wrote this for me to introduce it this way. David Sprinkle, the principal of Sprinkle and Company Architects, focuses on urban and inner city projects that look appropriate for the solutions to revitalize our cities. He's received more than 27 regional and local design awards for his work, has been featured in Metropolis, Dwell, Architectural Record, Texas Architect. He graduated from Texas Tech University, but somehow, practiced his career in New York City in a row. In addition to his main pursuit of creating sensible modern architecture for a changing world, he travels frequently, rides motorcycles, and regularly goes kayak fishing for therapy. You can tell he's from New York because he's still wearing all black. Please give it up for David Sprinkle!
Thank you, and thanks for sticking around for my little presentation at the very last. I'm going to talk about a trip that I took to Vietnam in May. I spent 30 days there, and it was a place that I had always been intrigued with. I remember as a 10-year-old watching on television the Vietnam War, which, by the way, in Vietnam they call the American War. And I remember being haunted on the one hand by the violence, but also looking in the background on the videos of like this beautiful tropical, sort of landscape. So I'm going to talk about some very random sort of images and videos that I experienced. There's an expression that they use in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, and it's same but different. And so I think after you watch these, you may understand a little bit of what that means. This is the first page of my website. I could not do the traveling that I do without the wonderful friends and co-workers that I work with, and they allow me to go from time to time, and I try to bring back some inspiration, like I'm sure a lot of you travel is all about that. I started in Hanoi in the north and made my way slowly south to Saigon. Vietnam is slightly larger geographically than Mexico. There are 91 million people. I also went to Cambodia to Angkor Wat. This is like a scene from Blade Runner. The architecture of Vietnam is a crazy mix of French colonial, this wonderful mid-century sort of communist architecture. The street life is just chaos. Now, I'm sure you've heard maybe about how the Vietnamese can be sometimes ferocious and very tough. And this next video, I think, explains that. Kids are dangerous. This is very typical of the agriculture in Vietnam. They use this terrace approach for their rice fields. They use very little equipment. You see water buffalo, but they pretty much plant and harvest by hand. They are the #2 exporters of rice and coffee. I did a motorcycle ride for a few days. The young lady behind me is from India. She just appeared after a couple days into the trip. She was lost. She just bought that motorcycle in Hanoi, lost her girlfriend leaving town, and said, "Could I ride with you?" And so it was great. This I think epitomizes the way the Vietnamese look at design and composition. On the left is a display for cigarettes on the sidewalk. And on the right is a very typical urban architecture. It goes perfectly with the craziness during the day. I rode bicycles in every town that I went to, and it's a great way to cover lots of ground and keep cool because it's very humid in Vietnam. And I was inspired by a book by David Byrne called Bicycle Diaries. This was one of my favorite towns. It's called Hoi An, and I'm riding a bicycle now, shooting the video. It's about 300 years old and has a real strong Japanese influence. They had very few cars drive through here. Lots of expats right on the beach. You know, what more could you ask for? This was an amazing encounter with these two little monks in training. We sat for half an hour and didn't say a word to each other. We had to be quiet because these guys over here were taking a nap. This was taken at Tien Mu Pagoda in Hue, and behind is a monastery, and this is where the monk who self-immolated himself in Saigon in the 60s, which was a part of the beginning of the Vietnam War, occurred. The architecture was amazing in the gardens, very minimalist. This is a river in a little town called Ninh Binh, and the river runs right through downtown, and you can take these boat rides, and after I wrote on this, I thought this would be great for the San Antonio Riverwalk to offer rides. Vietnam is a communist country, and as such, propaganda is everywhere, whether it's on the loudspeakers, on television, banners, posters, and of course you always get these, you know, hilarious graphic design possibilities. And I love the contrast, of course, with very ancient art. I have no idea what this was, but I had to show this to you. I don't know if he's saying a prayer for them or drunk or both. Vietnam really is has a Zen quality to it. This is another rice field with these beautiful karst features. And then on the right, this is actually an Angkor Wat, but there is a real power in this wonderful kind of sensibility. Vietnam reminds me quite a bit of Mexico in Latin America. There is the smell of diesel, there are unfinished buildings, there are dogs everywhere on the sidewalks, there's lots of smiling and lots of altars. In this case, they're Buddhist, where they put the play money and food and drink, again contrasted with the art. This sort of do-it-yourself architecture that you see in the cities is a little unnerving, I think, to some people, but it really does lend this very unique quality. Vietnam is, you know, charging forward really in terms of its future technology, but I loved how with this old man, I mean, they're somehow just kind of hanging out and living like they did 50 years ago. This is Angkor Wat, and after my first day there, I made a note in my journal that said I thought I understood architecture until I came here. It really is outstanding, and interestingly, it's only 1,000 years old. Chartres Cathedral is the same age. This last slide on the left, this was an archaeological museum where they had a bunch of wonderful sculptures they found in the ground, but they also found 2 bombs. There is, all over Vietnam, there are the remains of what we did there. But I was expecting animosity and I found none. Strangely, they love Americans, and I met a number of friends, and I do look forward to going back and seeing them. Thank you.
How tough was it for some people who might have liked to go there now? How tough was it for you to plan this? Did you just show up there? Were you by yourself? Did you just pick up the Indian chick and she drove with you for a while, or what?
No, it's really very easy. I went by myself, and you know, as you know, everything's on the internet. So I did spend a lot of time reading blogs, and you know, Vietnam is interesting because it was only opened up to tourism in the 90s. So unlike Thailand and these other countries, it's really very raw and very cheap, and there's a ton of backpackers because, like, you don't meet anybody there that's just there for like the weekend. I mean, they're there for like months, you know. Yeah.
And what about that Indian chick?
Well, actually, my girlfriend's here, so I really can't go into too much detail. No, but I am going to India in about 6 weeks. And she likes motorcycles, so we're going to ride with her.
Where's
sometimes you're not sure exactly what sunk in, but it does affect what we do. And I think I'm already interested in minimalism, and so I think this Buddhism and all of that I know has affected my design as to how it's going to show up on the logo.
Give him a hand.